Hi everyone, I'm just going to start off here. Thank you so much for coming today, and thank you so much to Soliana for allowing me to participate in this pre-recorded session. And Amira, my co-author, will actually be taking questions at the end, and I just really want to thank everyone for their support and London College of Fashion and UAL for having me back because I'm a very proud alumni and happy to be discussing this topic today. So thank you so much, and hope everyone has a wonderful conference. So fantastic. So I'm Emily Fortune Super. I will be talking to you today about The Grit and the Glamour, a qualitative study of the well-being of fashion models. So this actually started as a dissertation while I was a Master's of Science Applied Psychology and Fashion student at London College of Fashion, working with Aurora Barty and Amira Kadaru. I'm very lucky to have them both as co-authors, and we actually ended up presenting my dissertation to the Journal of Fashion Practice, condensing it a little bit and publishing it as a paper. So thank you so much. And this is what we'll be presenting today. So with that, let's start with a quick personal introduction, a general background, and the abstract, research questions, literature review, methods, key findings, conclusion, and questions. And thank you so much again to Amira for taking the questions for us. So a little bit about me. My professional background is that I actually modeled for 10 plus years. I've walked in every major fashion show in the world for top clients, appeared in Vogue 3 times, and I spent 5 years on the corporate side of fashion. I worked for the largest model management company in Europe, Premier Models, actually while completing my master's. And then I worked for Aritzia, a billion-dollar publicly traded fashion corporation in Canada, on their technology side and with their executives. And my educational background, I am a Canadian originally. I started my educational journey, let's say, in Canada and finished my first degree there. Then I moved to London to complete my Master's of Science. And now I am based in Ireland, completing my postgraduate in law degree, hoping to practice fashion law afterwards. And I'm very interested in intellectual property. So why model well-being and why is this topic so important and why are we discussing it today? So probably you can see from my personal background, I'm very passionate about this area and I really do think it's an area that it's necessary to develop it. And I really saw discrepancies in the industry and found this gap in understanding and perception of the way fashion models are perceived and how their well-being is received, what their well-being really is, and what people in the industry are really doing about it, and how we can support models better in that, and how we can change it for the better. So this career really affects many young people and their futures, specifically women. It's why I decided to only focus on women in the study. So future studies could also include men or male models. And I really wanted to change it for the next generation. And this is something that I perceived while I was working as a model, in my work colleagues, and working in the industry in general. So the abstract for our study was fashion models are often assumed to have a very glamorous job with limited consideration for their well-being. And results show a significant gap in understanding of models' well-being between industry professionals and the models themselves, as I have previously stated. An inherent need for change exists in the modeling industry to promote and enhance model well-being through regulation, culpability, and education. So those are the three pillars that we will be focusing on today, and you'll see them as themes that come up regularly. So we use two research questions to really guide our research. One, how do the perceptions or perspectives rather of fashion models and fashion industry experts compare on the topics of model well-being? And what is the experience of being a fashion model and to what extent does this influence their well-being? So these are this is my literature review, but these are some of the main cases that we use to kind of further our research and also provided us that platform or that jumping off point. Because really, our study is the first study in the world to look at model well-being purely from a qualitative point of view and also explore that gap in perception and understanding between models and industry professionals, which is a very interesting study that I hope to develops further in the future. But these studies were imperative for us to be able to write ours. So one was Swamy and Smilgelska with body image concerns in professional fashion models. Are they really an at-risk group? And Sodomsky, this is a very interesting study that was actually a final in law Models of confusion, strutting the line between agent and manager, employee and independent contractor in the New York Modeling Agency, or industry rather. And does size matter? The impact of models' body size on women's body-focused anxiety and advertising effectiveness. This is by Halliwell and Dittmar from the University of Sussex. These were a few others. So young people's experiences of fashion modeling, an IPA study. This is very helpful. And self-determination theory and the facilitation of intrinsic motivation, social development and well-being by Ryan and Deci. And finally, happiness and despair on the catwalk, need satisfaction, well-being, and personality adjustment among fashion models by Meyer Armstrong and all. And also Victoire's book was great in paired research before I started the program, just to really get a feeling of what models experience and really told from a personal point of view. And it was great to kind of reflect on that through writing it. So our methods. So again, this is a purely qualitative study, and this area was very underdeveloped, and we really wanted to build out that foundation. So rather than going to a mixed methods, we wanted to stay in the qualitative arena. So we designed 2 semi-structured interview schedules, 1 interview for each group, models and professionals, 15 open-ended self-designed questions in line with past literature on fashion models and well-being. And these questions were designed to explore the experience of modeling, well-being models, and how industry professionals perceive the effects of modeling. So we applied Braun and Clark thematic analysis and coded using in vivo software. I used pseudonyms for all the participants to protect their identity, and the interviews typically ran for an hour with models and 25 minutes for fashion professionals. And as you can see here, this table 1 is all the participants, their pseudonyms listed, genders, age started modeling, years of experience in the industry. You'll see there's quite a few, and their job titles. So key findings. So this is a great digestible kind of high-level look at the themes that came out of the study. The dissertation was an even larger one, but again, we kind of condensed that for our published paper, and that's what we'll be focusing on today. So the well-being of fashion models kind of broke up into these 2 different themes. So we have models' well-being and the work perception gap between models and professionals. So under that, we have experience as a fashion model and the illusion of glamour, which we'll get into. And on the other side of model well-being, we have happiness, resilience, anxiety, and self-esteem. So the work perception gap and experience as model as our first theme to explore. So all models, in the sample shared accounts of abuse, sexual objectification, and or extreme pressure from the industry to remain thin. So all models stated that they wanted body sizes to be changed to healthier ones, so the pressure to engage in disordered eating would be alleviated. So direct quote, if the sample size is changed, then we will change. Conversely, the majority of professionals thought models experience rejection and nothing more. So that's a huge gap for our first example. So both groups of participants believed that the fashion and modeling industry were incorrectly glamorized by the public, creating this unrealistic portrayal of this industry. The general public thinks of it as a very glamorous job, something that only perfect people can do, but the industry itself is more callous. So all 6 models and 3 industry professionals also presented the reality that modeling is a short career and models are seen as disposable. We are in the business of selling dreams, direct quote. So this is more exploring the illusion of glamour. So jumping to models' well-being and the 4 sub-themes there. So all model participants identified vocational success to have a very positive influence on their happiness, with one sharing the first time they saw themselves on a billboard, that being one of the happiest days of their lives, for instance, second to them getting married. So, however, all models also reference the impact of agency feedback and lost castings as having devastating, crushing, miserable effects on their happiness. So the highest of the highs, the lowest of the lows. So 5 of the 6 professionals admitted to observing models struggling or being in these states of unhappiness, but none described instances of trying to intervene or trying to help. So 5 of the 6 models were told by the agency to lose weight and described how this had a direct negative impact on their happiness and well-being, with the direct quote shown here. But in that period of my life, I was the most neurotic, like the most upset that I was probably in my whole life, as one model shared. So the other theme of resilience. All participants from both groups stated that having a thick skin was necessary to survive in this cutthroat industry, but perceived the effects of this constant rejection differently. So, past research suggests that the need to develop resilient qualities could also be an indication of poor well being. That comes from Huntler and Chandler, which I think directly ties to this theme. So, all of the models commented on the lasting emotional and psychological effects of rejection of their well being. And this is something very important to touch upon because, again, the thought that some people start as young as 11, this affects very young people and their future well being, not just in the moment, but even after leaving modeling, it can have very detrimental effects. So, direct quote, all of the rejection that comes with modeling, you get used to it, but then you really realize how much it affects you, as one model was reflecting upon her experiences. And while 5 of the 6 of the professionals agreed that rejection was painful to endure, they also believed that models were equipped to handle this. It is what it is. That's the industry. It's kind of this lack of understanding as well from the industry professionals. With anxiety, all models attested feelings of anxiety surrounding their body image, particularly, and commenting that the uncertainty present for them, the waiting, the not knowing, and how this can lead to feelings of anxiety. So, Swami and all stated that this higher drive for thinness can happen and this obsession of managing yourself and particularly feeling that so many instances as a model are outside your control. So within your control, you have this higher drive for thinness again, is that you want to control your own body, what you're eating, because so many other things, such as castings or what jobs you get, are feel so out of control. So modeling has made me feel super anxious. I would say honestly, all the time, to the point where it's debilitating anxiety. So this was another gap of misunderstanding between the two groups. With self esteem, this was actually raised in the short term but lowered in the long term. So while all models agreed that modeling had boosted their self esteem initially, ongoing modeling was described as having detrimental effects on their self esteem, identity, and body image. So, reported by the models themselves, 5 of the 6 models stated that the pressure to lose weight for modeling was detrimental to their well being. So, this led to feelings of inadequacy, eating disorders, lowered their self esteem, and affected their body image negatively. So, within the industry, there's a lot of self esteem issues. I would say specifically, just like body weight, constantly just hearing comments. I base my worth on my weight all the time. I don't like the feeling of being full. It makes me feel like I'm not doing something right. It's really deeply psychological. So, again, continuing on self esteem as a theme, the constant rejection and pressure to self objectify and scrutinize one's own body image was shown to dramatically lower self esteem in all 6 model participants. As Neslick and all explored, low self esteem and depression can exacerbate the effects of rejection. So, we apply this to modeling, we can see how this can really affect their overall well being as they're constantly facing this rejection and needing the self esteem or needing this thick skin to get through the industry, they're having this lower self esteem and feeling low on themselves. It can really affect them even further. And applying Frederick and Roberts' objectification theory, models may internalize how others see them and affecting how they evaluate themselves physically. And this can lead to regular body monitoring, causing increased anxiety, body shaming, mental health risks, including eating disorders. So, conclusion and next steps. So, the power dynamic between model and agent really needs to be re examined. So, all models reported some form of abuse during these interviews, and only some were explored today. This is a huge issue, and specifically, if we apply kind of a law context to it, there's a huge issue in terms of how really models are going to proceed in the future. These modeling or mother agency contracts are very difficult to get out of. So it's really important that this dynamic between the model and the agent again needs to be re-examined, just in terms of a power dynamic of models feeling more empowered to be able to control their own well-being and take control of their lives, but also have more of a balancing of the scales in terms of how they proceed in their careers, when they start those careers, and when they can say no, when they can't, and feeling more empowered in their chosen career. This independent contractor loophole should also be closed. This is something Sadomsky covered in her study during her final year of law in New York, but typically this can apply globally where models are categorized as contractors rather than employees, meaning that they don't have dental coverage, they don't have health coverage, and the agency, again, this huge switch in power in the sense of the agency can end the contract at any time. One day you're in, one day you're out, but the girls are not empowered in the same way. They're very difficult to resolve these contracts, or dissolve these contracts rather, and they really have no protection or guardrails around them, even at these very young age. So increasing agency accountability and protecting more underage girls. So pledges aren't enough, real change needs to be enacted, and more research and education is necessary. So thank you so much for listening today. It really means a lot that I'm even able to speak about this in this conference. It's very near and dear to my heart, and I'm very grateful for having professors really believe in this body of research, and I hope that other students will want to write more dissertations and publish more articles, and more academics will be interested in this in the future, because education is a great way for us to kick this off and also educate parents that are trying to make the best decision for their children if they're interested in modeling, and I think that's the best way forward. So thank you so much for listening. Again, I'm Emily Fortune Super. So nice to meet you all, and thank you for letting me take part today. And Amira now will take questions on our behalf. So thank you so much, and I'll see you soon. Bye now.